From championship hopes to a shocking slump, Sergio Perez's once promising performance has taken a nosedive. The Mexican driver, who initially dazzled the F1 world in the first 3 races, now finds himself in a distant shadow of his former self. Despite commanding the fastest car on the grid, Perez's recent outings have been disappointingly lackluster. This downturn in form spells trouble not only for him but also for Red Bull, who may be compelled to make a swift decision on replacing their struggling number 2 driver. As 2023 holds ambitions beyond just the Drivers' Championship, the presenting question emerges: has Perez become the most overrated driver on the grid? Join us as we unravel the gripping tale of a talent in crisis and the implications it carries for both the driver and his team. From the beginning of the season, it was clear that Red Bull Racing would be the dominant force in Formula 1. In the first few races, Sergio Perez showed his skills by challenging his teammate Max Verstappen and even holding him off in races like Jeddah and Baku. This created an exciting rivalry within the team, reminiscent of the battles between Rosberg and Hamilton in 2016. But then Perez decided it was time for a magic trick, and he disappeared when the fans least expected. It seems that this year will follow a pattern we've seen before in 2022. Perez started strong but then suddenly faded away, leaving his fans disappointed. After the Monaco race, which Perez usually performs well in, we expected him to bounce back and contribute to the team's success in the Constructors' Championship. Unfortunately, he's been a major letdown this time. To be fair, Perez hasn't mentioned struggling with the car or facing the same issues as last year, when the car upgrades favored Verstappen more. But regardless, his performance has been far from impressive. Perez kept insisting that he could compete for the championship, even though the gap to Verstappen was already significant before the Canadian GP. He acknowledged his mistakes in Monaco and Barcelona, where he struggled in qualifying and paid the price on race day. He expressed a desire for a fresh start and to regain the form he had earlier in the season. Unfortunately, Montreal turned out to be another disappointing weekend for Perez, as he failed to reach Q3 for a 3rd time. This is not only affecting his championship hopes, but also his chances of securing 2nd place in the Drivers' Championship and his future with his team. It's clear that he needs to avoid such mistakes going forward. Perez faced a devastating truth after the Montreal GP. He was consistently 0.7 seconds slower per lap than his teammate Verstappen throughout the entire race. He only managed to overtake Albon unexpectedly, which is a disappointing update on his performance. Considering the promises Perez made before the season, it's fair to say that he hasn't lived up to the expectations. While it's challenging to compete with a talent like Verstappen, Perez has years of racing experience, and Red Bull's early dominance in 2023 should have put him in 2nd place, regardless of the race circumstances. If his teammate can secure pole position with over a 1 second difference, finishing at least 2nd in every race shouldn't be too difficult. However, Perez has failed to enter Q3 in 3 consecutive races. Following the Canadian GP, Perez surprised many by admitting that something is wrong and that he needs to make immediate decisions. This realization is already known to dedicated F1 fans, and simply being a good guy can only take him so far. While Red Bull did help revive his career in 2021 and he won a few races, Perez doesn't possess the qualities needed to be a championship contender, despite showing glimpses of potential in Jeddah and Baku. Perez's disappointment was evident after the Montreal GP, and when discussing the matter, he stated, "It was longer, a lot longer than I thought. I think the safety car basically took all the opportunity away because it was looking good. We raced on that hard tire and unfortunately it didn't pay off. Yeah, I'm very concerned about that, knowing what went wrong. We just didn't have the pace and we don't understand why. That's the weird thing, so we have to figure it out. We're going to sit down and look back because we know what we're capable of, and it's just important for us to understand what's going on." There is hope that Perez can regain his form despite recent mistakes, but one question lingers. Can he handle the pressure of the championship? As soon as he was touted as Verstappen's main rival, his performance started to decline. This led to strong comments from Red Bull's advisor Helmut Marko, who urged Perez to focus on supporting the team's goal of securing 1-2 finishes in both the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships. Horner, Red Bull's team principal, mentioned that with Verstappen's dominant performances, Perez can now alleviate some of the championship pressure and concentrate on improving himself as the team's 2nd driver. Although Perez dismissed these claims and insisted he was still in top form and would bounce back in Montreal, the reality was different. He couldn't even challenge the Ferrari drivers, as Leclerc and Sainz were far behind the Mercedes and Aston Martin cars, not to mention Verstappen. Consequently, we now face the reality of Verstappen holding a commanding 69-point lead over Perez. Perez is now finding it difficult to even challenge Alonso's AMR 23, a car consistently finishing on the podium and posing a threat to Perez's second place in the Drivers' Championship. When asked about this, Alonso simply said, yes, his recent results indeed suggest this possibility, but only time will reveal if he can surpass the Red Bull driver. One thing is clear, Perez can't rely on his teammates' assistance, as his own performance and confidence have landed him in a difficult situation that he's unlikely to escape from soon. Some people hope that Verstappen would go the extra mile and support Perez in feeling more comfortable with the car. However, Verstappen has once again shown how unreasonable this expectation is, given their shared experiences. When asked about Perez's championship ambitions and struggles with the car, Verstappen responded in the way you'd expect from the Dutchman, saying, well, if I hadn't been there, it would have looked very different for Red Bull. I wouldn't be happy with not making Q3 3 times in a row. I'm not concerned about it either. Perez's poor performance is seriously jeopardizing Red Bull's lead in the Constructors' Championship. While Stroll has been unreliable for Aston Martin, Ferrari and Mercedes can count on both their drivers to deliver consistent results and close the gap in the championship standings. Perez has become the weak link in the Red Bull team, and his seat is now one of the most uncertain and precarious on the grid. Red Bull has talented academy drivers like Lawson, Iwasa and Tsunoda making waves, making it clear that Perez needs to step up his game if he wants to continue his F1 career with the team. Unfortunately, being a nice guy can only take you so far in the sport. Perez is now falling behind drivers who are far behind Verstappen and should be easily overtaken. In reality, he can't even get close to them, let alone challenge for positions. This lack of competitiveness is a stark contrast to his earlier season dominance. Perez faces a challenging task ahead, and it seems like he's letting his team down when they need him the most, securing the Constructors' Championship. This could ultimately cost him his seat. At this point, it appears that Perez needs a complete reset to regain the pace that he had at the beginning of the season. Only time will tell if he can make that happen. I'm a fan of Checo, and I don't agree with the idea of him being replaced on the team. However, he is making things much harder for himself than necessary. With the car that he has, he should be able to reach the podium in most races without needing extraordinary driving skills. A straightforward and a solid performance throughout the weekend should be enough to earn him a bottle of champagne, a trophy and valuable points for the team in the World Constructors' Championship. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant, just a reliable performance, similar to Bottas. One thing that I want to point out in Perez's defense is that I believe Red Bull made a mistake with his strategy. Yeah, I'm criticizing Red Bull's strategy here. They should have started him on soft tires, or at least medium tires. Why? Well, the Red Bull car is known for having excellent tyre durability and low tyre degradation, which means that it can take a more aggressive approach. Remember when Max won from a low grid position in Hungary? They praised the strategist for making the right call that day. I can't help but think that Max would have likely won from the same starting position as Perez. Starting on the hard tyres was still the wrong choice for Perez, as he could have easily overtaken slower cars with better grip and then pitted during the safety car period. We didn't know for sure how things would turn out, but it would have been worth taking a chance since the hard tyres didn't work out so well in Barcelona. After all, Perez found himself behind Russell at one point. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments below.